guys, Sean Ray here for Digital Muscle. I am in Phoenix, Arizona, the home of the 1991 USA champion, Mr. JJ Marsh. Our featured guest on Where Are They Now here at Digital Muscle. JJ, step on in. We are out here in the desert. He has returned. One of my arch nemesis. I met JJ, I believe it was somewhere around 1986 or 85. He probably has a better recollection of when we met, but we wound up eventually training in a, well, I'm going to take you all the way back. 1996, I believe you did the USA Championships with, was it with Laura Craval?
Laura Craval.
Laura Craval actually won the 1990 Arnold Classic with me, the year I failed the drug test. But she was your mixed pairs partner. Tell me a little bit about the mixed pairs.
Oh man, that was amazing, because going into the USAs and doing the light heavyweight division weight class as my partner, she completed as a light heavy in her weight class. So between the two of us, we won our division, won the overall, and won the mixed pairs.
Now, at that time, that wasn't enough to get an IFBB Pro card, which everybody wanted back in the day. I believe you had to win your division. And so, what happened after that?
Well, after that, we got the invite to compete at the national mixed pairs, but Laura Craval wasn't a U.S. citizen.
Right,
So
Canadian, right?
Yeah, Canadian. So we weren't able to compete at that event, so I got paired up with Kathy Palio. So we ended up winning that show and then going over to Madrid, Spain, and getting second at the mixed pairs in Spain.
Yeah, mixed pairs was a big kind of a thing back in the day. I remember Tony Pearson was partners with Juliette Bergman. I think he did some partners with Carla Dunlap,
Yes.
Diana Dennis. I mean, it was a very big thing. Brad and Elaine Craig. It was very popular then, but I ran into JJ at the 1987 National Championships in New Jersey, where I won the light heavyweight, and I believe Phil Hill won the heavies, and a guy that was from here in Arizona, Vince Comerford. Actually, he came from Buffalo, but he wound up living out here. And JJ, I believe you were third in that competition,
Yes.
right behind Darryl Stafford in the light heavyweight divisions. And that was a time where you win your division and you turn pro. So that's going to take us back to how JJ got his pro card. Tell us about that.
Well, the year prior, in '86, when I won the USAs, they didn't make the announcement early on that the winner of that show would get a pro card, because the previous winners in '85, which was Michael Quinn and Jackie Paisley, they got their pro card, and then in '87 they announced the winners of the USA's pro card. So I literally had to petition for my pro card because I won the division, and so I wrote into the IFBB, explained, I was just caught up in a whole thing where they didn't make the decision or the choice to put it in the information that the winners would be turning pro. So they granted me, and I got my pro card. So then I went off to my first pro show, which was at the Houston Pro Championships.
Was that
in Houston,
88?
Texas.
Was that 88?
That was 88.
Yeah.
And won that show. I think they had Gary Stridham groomed to win that show, but I came in impeccable shape, and I won that show.
That was awesome, because now you've arrived. It's 1988. That was the year I did my very first Olympian. Of course, Lee Haney won his fourth that year. And we fast forward a little bit. We move into 1989 and 90. You were still training in Fullerton, Anaheim, Buena Park area?
Yes, at the Sequoia Athletic Club.
Yeah, so Sequoia. And JJ had an unusual training regime. I remember he called me up sometime to work out, and I think we wound up at the gym at like 2 or 3 in the morning. Tell us about how those early morning workouts for you transpired.
Still to this day, I'm still training at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. It's just getting up, and I had to maintain a full-time job, so I had to get my workouts in before work and after work. So it just made sense to get up, get into the gym at 3 in the morning, put 2 hours in, and then go to work. And it wasn't a lot of people in the gym. So if anyone was showing up at the gym that time of morning, they were serious about doing what they were doing.
Yeah, I tried to do it. I was sleepwalking through some workouts. But then you kind of you arrived and boom, you were gone. Like you were a ghost. So 1990, Laura Craval wins the Arnold Classic with myself, so she did reappear on the scene. And she had some epic battles in there with some of the girls coming up in the bodybuilding. I think 92, you wound up winning a pro show again in 92?
Yes.
Which one was
Well, actually, that I got fourth at the Arnold Classic in '92.
Okay. Vince Taylor won that year.
And Vince Taylor won that year. So after it was like '91 when I decided to make the transition from California to Arizona. Did a couple more shows once I got here.
Wait, in '91 you won the Ironman?
Yeah, '91 won the Ironman.
Second ever.
November of '91, I moved here to Arizona. Did a couple more shows, Arnold Classic, the Chicago Pro Show, and did the Olympia. That was my first year doing the Olympia that year, and I guess they were doing the drug test.
Yes.
So I was one of the individuals that got selected.
That's crazy.
You know, and got banned for the show.
You got popped. I got popped. Vince Comerford got popped.
Barry DeMay.
Yeah, Samir Banu. I think. I mean, Mohammed Ben Aziz. People were dropping like flies on that drug test.
Yes, and and then I guess they realized, this is an elite sport.
Yeah.
And I think they changed the whole format and all of that.
Did they tell you what drug you failed for? Because when I failed the Arnold, they specifically said it was Winstrol V, and they were right.
Well, at that time, all we know, you failed. We didn't get any kind of notification or anything like that, and that was actually the 90.
Yeah, and they got
Mr.
the results
Olympia.
back before the show. So you did all the work. You showed up. You didn't get a chance to step on stage before you were notified you can't compete.
And not only that, I couldn't even get a ticket to come see the show.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So
did you get banned? Like they said, look, we don't want you anywhere around?
We're not. You can't come to the show. That's it.
That's
You
Wayne
check out the hotel. So I checked out the
Wow.
hotel. And then I got to thinking, well, these guys from this Mr. Olympia is going to go on the European tour. So I'm just going to stay in shape.
Right.
So that's when I won the Ironman in 91 because I was still in shape. I didn't go too far off my diet, and I stayed in shape, and then I won that Ironman.
Right.
So which was the second ever. You winning it in 90,
Yeah, Redondo
and
Beach.
then coming back in 91 and winning that show. I think it was a statement made at
Yes.
that point. And then with the following week going to Arnold Classic and getting fourth, the year that you won that one.
Well, let's be clear. 1991, when they got rid of the drug testing, Lee Haney arguably looked the best he ever did, which was his last Olympia against Dorian Yates. And he might have dodged a bullet by them having thrown the drug testing out in 91 with Dorian Yates coming over from England. So now we're in 92. 94 you wound up at the Olympia?
Yes.
Was that your last show?
Yeah, that was the last one, I think, when Lou Ferrigno was making his comeback.
Yeah, well, Lou made his comeback in 92 in Helsinki, Finland, but then he started the Open in 93. Then he did the Masters in Atlanta in 94.
Right. So that was the last Olympia for me. I placed, I believe, 12th at that show.
Were you disappointed?
And no. I figured, I'm in the mix of things. Wasn't where I wanted to be, but that was a serious lineup.
Yeah, it was.
And to get where I was at, that was great. So then it was coming up. I was coming up on 39, and I reached out to Jim Mannion and says, hey, look, I really want to be done with bodybuilding. They had the Masters Olympia coming up in Roanoke, Virginia. Vince Taylor was training for that show, and I was calling him up and making sure that he better come in shape. So I did that show earlier. I actually did it at 39 instead of 40, and it kind of went full circle because in my very first show in 79, I got fourth place as a teenager, and then at 99, when I retired from bodybuilding at the Masters Olympia, I got fourth. So
that is
everything looked
career.
Like it came full circle.
So that's what we were talking about earlier. Is a lot of bodybuilders today, they don't have that teenage base. Like you were competing in 79. That's the year before Arnold Schwarzenegger made the comeback in 1980 at his final Olympia. Do you follow the bodybuilding scene? Because you went into the business world. You're out here. You're building an empire in Arizona, but what's the last competition you went to on the pro level? What year was that?
That was the Masters Olympia that I did in 99.
That's the last competition?
That's the last competition I stepped on stage or even attended to do anything because I was at the point to where, 20 years from 79 to 99, it was time to, close that chapter and pursue, a business career. I've always been business minded, always worked full time where a lot of guys had sponsors. I was suit and tie to work every day.
Yeah.
And so I decided to take that energy and drive and dedication from the bodybuilding and start putting it into my business. And it just kind of took off from there.
Well, yeah, and a lot of bodybuilders are either all in or all the way out. And so you chose the route to go all into your business, not look back. So is there any regrets? I mean, did you accomplish everything or did you leave happy and full?
Oh, it was a means to justify the end, when starting this whole thing out, where a lot of people says, oh, you're never going to be anything, and to compete among the elite, win shows, place in shows, make a name for myself, and be able to travel all across the world, seeing places I thought I would never see, I felt very accomplished when I was done. So it was no regrets to say, hey, I'm out of this. I didn't want to be a guy that's going to try to go beyond their career bodybuilding and think, okay, I can capture that youth when I was 10, 15 years younger. Things like that won't happen. So I decided, I'm always going to work out, stay in somewhat, decent shape, but to try to get on stage, to try to recapture something, that was not something I was looking to do.
Now, I'm trying to figure it out. Are you and Sean Jenkins cousins? Because Sean Jenkins was with you coming up, and I thought there was a blood tie there.
Well, we met at a show in Mission Viejo, and he had mentioned to me, he says, hey, man, I had I talked to my psychic. My psychic said, I was going to meet you and everything. So we kind of connected. We started working together, and he says, "Oh man, a lot of people saying we're looking alike. I'm just going to say that we're cousins."
Yeah, so you're like,
and so that's kind of how it all started. And he started doing some things, started working with him. He had won the USA's in Vegas, and then he went over to, I think it was England, and he got his pro card. So he actually turned pro in '85 when it took me a year later to turn
it's
pro.
crazy. That's when Lee Labrada also turned pro in 1985. Those are some good times. You keep in touch with anybody in the industry?
Other than Sean, because he's here in Arizona, but I pretty much kind of stepped away, other than, when I see some of your podcasts or the Olympia's coming up and I'm happen to be online. But other than that,
yeah, that's crazy because Arizona had what? Sandy Riddell. You had Vince Comerford out here in Arizona. Who else is out here? Now Dennis James is out here.
Even back then, you had Mike Matarazzo.
Matarazzo was living out here because he used to date Sandy Riddell back in the day. And you have the late, the one that just died, not Kathy, Jackie Paisley was out here for a while. So
that was my mixed partner that we did over in Madrid, Spain.
Why do you think they got rid of the mixed pairs? I mean, that was something that was really cool going into the 90s. It just disappeared.
I never understood that because that was, an alternative of putting people together and expressing the male and female bodybuilder, and it was more of an art.
Yeah.
But I think things started changing with the size and what people wanted to come see, and they kind of stepped away from that. I'd love to see that come back.
Yeah. Did the guys, as they got bigger, did that discourage what your mission statement was in bodybuilding? Because I know Labrada, like in '94, he said, "Look, this is going the direction that I don't like. They're just getting too big and they're over rewarding size." He got out. I stuck around for a long time.
Yeah, and that whole thing was, you had the mass monsters coming into play. So the aesthetic, the pleasing physiques, the dynamic posing, all of that went out the window. Mm-hmm. Let's just get on stage and out muscle and out most muscular everybody, and that was the whole thing. And people gravitated to that. They wanted to see freaks, and that's where the sport went.
How do you feel when you look at today's bodybuilding? I mean, I'm sure you've seen pictures of maybe a Sean Roden from 2 years ago, or a Brandon Curry as Mr. Olympia now, or maybe Phil Heath when he had his 7 run. Does that inspire you, or is it something that just, it kind of looks impressive, but it doesn't make your heart skip a beat?
Yes, nothing that's going to, bring me back and say, hey, I can do this. I look at these guys and I give them credit for what they're doing and all their hard work, but that's not something that's going to inspire me to get back in the gym and say, okay, I'm going to recapture this youth and do these things. But they added some more dynamics to the sport, with the men's physique.
Yes.
So you are able to see the classic and things like that. So that's kind of opened up the whole spectrum of bringing back the aesthetics. But, if you're going to compete on that, top elite competition as Olympia, its size matters.
Well, JJ, it's a pleasure catching up with you here in Phoenix, Arizona. And this Where Are They Now series, which starts now here in Arizona with JJ, is going to lead to something that I hope become a little bit more special, because I'm going to invite a lot of our Where Are They Now athletes to this year's Mr. Olympia Expo so you can meet them in person, get an autograph, shake a hand, share some memories, and have a walk down memory lane. But this is our first one for 2020. We've got a lot more to come here on Digital Muscle. For Mr. USA, JJ Marsh, I'm Sean Ray, Digital Muscle.